Yo, ha Bill Nicholson.
What is good, YouTube? Your boy Melnificent coming back with another quick video. Today I want to show you guys what this is all about. I actually had to take apart the Nike Adapt basketball shoe. You can see the motor that is right in there within the shoe. I had to take it apart because there was a pairing issue when I tried to move the actual shoe from one account to another. It does require you to factory default the shoe, but in order to factory default, I know on Nike's, I think, website, they tell you to hold down these two buttons for 10 seconds. But in reality, what's happening is that if you actually hold down both buttons for 5 seconds, when both of these lights turn red and you're holding it down, you want to let everything go. You can take one of the buttons and just hold it down until both lights turn, or at least both buttons turn white. Once it turns white, you're going to then, while holding this down, you're going to press this down and it's going to turn both whites into, I think, an orange color hue. You press it down again and then both sides will turn green simultaneously and you just simply let go. That is a true factory default on the Nike Adapt app, which will basically factory reset the actual sneaker, but you also have to go on the app itself and or the phone and unpair the actual shoes from the device that you paired the actual phone to. So, you know, just keep that in mind when you're factory default. It's kind of two-phase. You want to make sure it's the shoe itself. If it's paired with another device, make sure it's unpaired from the actual account, and make sure it's unpaired in terms of the Nike account, and make sure it's unpaired from the actual phone. So basically what happened was I was looking at the actual motor to see if there was any power, because when I would press both buttons, there was no power. I couldn't do pretty much anything trying to figure out what's going on here. So I wanted to go into the actual motor to see if there was any power or anything happening when I would set it on the actual charging station. So what happened was I ended up taking this motor out, and what you have to do is once you take the insole out of the actual Nike Adapt, you're going to notice that there's like a Velcro strap. You can see it right here. And when you undo the straps, it'll expose the actual motor, which you see right here. But in order to get to the actual motor, you need to have like some type of flat screwdriver or a mini one. And what you're doing is basically you're kind of, I would start kind of right here, and you're kind of lifting it up, if that makes sense. You want to kind of lift it up from this side. The only thing is that you want to be very, very careful, because there are two straps or two parts on each side where you can see that kind of hook into the actual shoe, which is kind of like right there. And what happens is this will pry up, this pops open, and you'll actually see that this will actually disconnect or pop open from the top of these two right here. And then once the plastic covering is out, you'll be able to see that the actual lacing system, this lace is actually one lace that feeds into the shoe. It goes down here and then it runs across on the other side, and then it comes up and then it feeds this side. And basically what's happening is that wheel that you see right here, let me get out your way. The wheel that you see right here in the middle, where you see those two screws, is kind of turning them as it's going. So let me see if I can actually do a demonstration real quick so you can see what I'm talking about here. I'm going to move this, and you see how it's lighting up right now. But the actual lace, see how it's turning? Now, if I decided, that's basically what it's doing. See, it's tightening up the one lace and from both sides, and then it's loosening them. So I'm going to loosen both of them so you can see. So you can see that right there. It's basically just loosening the actual shoe, but tightening and loosening it. You get kind of like a zoom version of it. But anyway, that light wasn't coming on originally. And what happened was there's a backlight that sits, and you'll see like a video of the actual motor as I pulled it out. You won't be able to pull out the actual motor unless you take this plastic covering off. Once you take the plastic covering off, basically the reason why you can't take it out right now is because it's latched into right in here. So there's a latch on his side and there's a latch on the opposite side that needs to come out before you can actually bring the motor out. Now, you don't need to take out those screws, despite what people say. Basically, the lacing system, it pretty much, the lace itself will just sit in between those screws, and you'll be able to feed it in a zigzag fashion, because there's two, it's kind of like two hitches on each side where the lace will sit on this side. If you can see that right there, it'll sit on this side, and then it'll also sit on this side. But by the time it comes in the middle, it's going to kind of like do a diagonal turn. So it's coming in this way, going up, and then going down this way. That's what helps the whole tighten system, keeps everything, it keeps the lacing system to tighten up. But anyway, taking out the actual motor, after you take the plastic casing out, you'll be able to get to the actual motor. The motor has a light, and you'll see a video to the side right here. It has a green light in the back, and if you see that green light blinking when you put the motor on top of the actual charging station, you know that it's actually still working. What happens is it might get in a stage where it gets locked, or what I like to call bricked, or it's stuck in a stage where when you try to do that whole factory default setup, it doesn't pretty much work well. So how to get around that? The two buttons that you're looking at, or at least that you see on the demo for the actual motor, if you hold them both down for about 25 seconds, that'll actually cause the actual system to kind of sync up to the actual motor. So that light, you'll see the green light that you see kind of blinking in the back, not the main ones, that's actually the LEDs that illuminates these two buttons on the motor, but there's a backlight to the actual motor. And that's what you're kind of looking at to make sure that that light is still on. If that light is still on, you just need to hold down the two buttons, which is these two buttons on the actual motor, not this button itself, but the metal parts that are attached pretty much to the actual button itself on the actual motor. You're holding that down for 25 seconds. And once you hold that down for 25 seconds, you'll notice that the LED lights will start illuminating on both sides. So that's how I knew that kind of fixed everything. Now, once I got everything done, I got, I confirmed that, once I put it on a charger station and it started lighting up, everything was good. But putting this together was kind of a pain. So the actual string for the Nike Adapt app, remember I said it has to sit in between where you're looking at right here. It has to sit in between these two screws. And then it feeds from here, goes between here, and then feeds here. And then once you actually have that on the actual motor, then you have to put the plastic casing on. But you have to make sure, and this is the key part, what I would do is once I have the laces in place, or at least the lace in place on the actual motor, I would recommend kind of tightening a little bit just to give it some leeway so that the actual string can sit in there, so that by the time you put the plastic casing on, it'll kind of restrict, or it'll actually tighten up the actual lace itself. You'll see the lace kind of just sit on each side, and that's how you know that at least the plastic casing is on. You're going to, before you put everything back together, make sure you do a test to make sure you see those laces kind of tightening up and kind of, let me show you here. So you see, you just want to keep doing that test and go back and forth a couple times to make sure, see, to make sure it's actually working as it should. You don't want to put everything back together and then find out that the laces from the actual motor came loose and it didn't retract and kind of tighten up the way it should, but it didn't, if that makes sense. But your boy Mel Nipson, man, I want to show you guys real quick about the whole Nike Adapt, what it looks like, the actual motor, how it functions, how you can take it off, and how you can gain access to it if you were to have a light issue, or if you think the actual Nike Adapt motor, there's something wrong with it. Again, the key thing is that green light that sits in the back. And I believe it's back, kind of like, if you can see right here, it's back right here. And it'll kind of light up on the motor in conjunction to the LED lights that you see on the sides of the actual shoe. So again, if you think the only way you should turn in your Nike Adapt shoe, even though it's discontinued, but just know that if there's a green light there, it's operating. All you have to do is pretty much just hold down both of these buttons for about 25 seconds until you see both lights kind of responding. It's kind of like a real system reset in addition to the factory reset that you're doing for the actual functionality of the shoe. But your boy Melnificent Man, Nike Adapt demo. Just wanted to show you guys some quick troubleshooting steps that you can do to ensure that the actual shoe is functioning as it should. I am out, and you guys stay blessed.